In 1980, Evie McDonald was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And at the time she received the diagnosis, the disease had already advanced quite a bit. And the doctors told her that she had, at best, 6 months to live. Evie went home and raged about her situation for a few days. And then she came up with a plan. Evie sat in front of a mirror, naked, and looked at herself. She described herself as looking like a bowl of Jell-O in a wheelchair. As a child, she'd had polio, and so her legs were withered. She'd been overweight her whole life, and now she was dying of a degenerative disease. Evie sat there in front of the mirror and experienced all the frustration, all the hateful feelings that she had toward her body and her life. And she began to write them down. She made a list of all these negative thoughts and feelings, and it was a very long list. Then Evie did 3 things. She started a new list of things that she liked about herself. She began with her hair and her hands, she'd always been proud of. But she found that making the second list of things that she liked about herself was a lot harder than creating that first list about what she didn't like. And so she decided she was going to work on it. And Evie would sit without her clothes on in front of a mirror every day, 3 times a day, to think about something that she liked about herself. She would set a little timer for 20 minutes to make her stay there because it was hard. Often all those negative thoughts and feelings were just so intense and they would be completely overwhelming. But Evie wouldn't let herself leave until she could think of at least one new thing that she liked about herself to add to her list. The second thing that she did was to accept her feelings and give them to God. She would say, God, these are my thoughts and feelings. I accept them as mine, but I don't know what to do with them. You take them. And the third thing that she did, she forgave everyone and everything in her life that she needed to forgive. She made forgiveness part of her daily practice. And day by day, Evie's list of the things that she liked about herself got longer and longer until one day she had a breakthrough. She wheeled herself in front of the mirror, and not a single negative thought or feeling came up about herself. They were completely gone. All she felt for herself was love and compassion. For herself, for her body, which she had come to see as a miracle of creation, and for who she was on the inside, for her soul, for the difference that she had made in the world. But Evie kept at it, and her legs began to get stronger. And over time, she was able to walk again, and then to feed herself, and then to clothe herself, and then to resume all normal activity. Evie became the first person in history to completely recover from ALS. Today, she has been fully recovered for 41 years. It's astounding. Evie McDonald healed herself through the power of unconditional love. And I heard about Evie through a song that Greg Tamblyn, many of you know Greg Tamblyn, singer, songwriter, humorist, he wrote a song about her called Unconditional Love, the true story of Evie McDonald. And what I shared with you also came from an essay in his book, Attila the Gate Agent. In his song about Evie McDonald, Greg Tamblyn writes, it's called Unconditional Love, and it's really wonderful stuff. And if you can get enough, you can find peace. So, In the time that I've got left, I've got to find some for myself. I believe unconditional love is what I need. But the fact is, unconditional love is what we all need, isn't it? To really be our best, to live fully. It reminds us that we are loved, despite our perceived flaws and shortcomings. Unconditional love reassures us, it inspires us, it supports us, it heals us, it empowers us. You know, most of us, I bet all of us actually, can think of someone in our lives who has loved us unconditionally and the difference that that has made. Can you think of someone? Yeah. My mother loved me unconditionally, and I always knew that. She was always there for me. She was my best listener, my most ardent supporter, and I knew that that would never change. My mom's belief in me made me feel like I could do anything. Often I think of her before I get up to speak. Today I had a sense of her blowing me a kiss. But you see, this is what unconditional love does. It frees and expands us. It makes us feel bigger, like we can do more, like we can be more. By contrast, conditional love restricts and shrinks us. Conditional love says, I will love you if you do what I think you should do, or if you act as I think you should act. You know, conditional love really doesn't feel like love at all, does it? It feels like control. But unconditional love, on the other hand, is liberating. It is perhaps the most liberating force there is. It may well be the most powerful tool we have for transformation. Well, of course, Jesus knew this, right? I think of Jesus as the master of unconditional love. When I bring him to mind, I have this sense of him sort of laying a calming hand on people, literally or figuratively, to let them know there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you. You might make mistakes, but you are not a mistake. You are inherently good and inherently loved. And nothing will ever change that. You know, when Jesus refused to condemn the woman accused of adultery and told her to just go and sin no more, he was essentially saying, look, you've made some poor choices here, but you're still loved. Now go out there and do better. It was a way of saying, really, I believe in you, right? And Jesus made it clear that God, this loving presence, loves us unconditionally, and furthermore, that this is how we are to love one another, unconditionally. It's not always easy, is it? It requires that we sharpen up some of our spiritual skills. Perhaps primary among them is our ability to forgive. Right? You really can't love someone for who they are if you aren't willing to forgive and let go of your grievances and your grudges or your opinions and your judgments. That is the way to sort of clear the way to drop that. And a second way to do that is to release the negative about anyone and focus on the positive. And as it turns out, that very simple step right there, focusing on the positive, can be a complete game changer. In his classic best-selling book called Getting the Love You Want, Harville Hendricks writes, eliminating negativity is the most powerful way to transform a love relationship. Indeed, it is the foundation for lasting love. Negativity, he goes on to say, is any thought, word, or deed that tells your partner you're not okay when you think or act a certain way. It includes shame, blame, criticism, invasiveness, avoidance, and condemnation. Hendricks says that when you remove all negativity, you make your relationship a sacred space. Isn't that beautiful? Make it sacred. You can even create a state of what he calls chronic adoration. Chronic adoration. That's how I feel about my beloved. Chronic adoration. In my family as well, and on a spiritual level, all of you. You know, a year or so ago, Tom Baker was giving a talk about relationships, and he said, the secret to a happy marriage is to never criticize each other. And he was right. You're right. So this business of conditional love is really soul love, isn't it? It's really connecting with people on a soul level. It means sort of shifting the way we see them so that we just look past the outer behaviors or the outer differences. I'm not saying we're a doormat. I'm not saying we don't have boundaries. I'm not saying we don't speak up when something needs to be addressed. But when we're in this business of loving, we're able to separate that deed from the doer, talk about the deed, but continue to behold the perfection in the doer. And there's a way that we can do this even with strangers on the street. You can just sort of remove the outer layer of activity and look into their heart. Just appreciate for a moment that we're all fellow travelers here on planet Earth, are we not? We're all just trying to make it work, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out who we are, why we're here, how to live, how to be happy. And everybody, as we often say, is doing the best they can at the level of understanding that they are currently at their current level of consciousness. It doesn't mean that we judge or pity, it just means we remember each person is on their own path, but we're all after really the same things. And when we do that, when we can see them in that way, you really can sort of feel your heart swell. Even when you're at the grocery store, you can just see, wow, look at all of us trying to make our way in this world. It opens our hearts to compassion, helps us be forgiving. And we can look past any behavior, at least for then, that might be disturbing to us. So several weeks ago, I went down to Charleston, South Carolina, to take care of my fabulous 4.5-year-old granddaughter, Vivian, for 8 days. Her parents, my son and daughter-in-law, were taking a well-deserved and long overdue vacation in Mexico, and so I was thrilled to be able to give them that gift. But 8 days. 8 days. Let me just say that I have a renewed appreciation and even empathy for the parents of young children. Of course, they are delightful. Of course, they are joyful. Of course, they are little spiritual teachers. And they require a lot of energy. By day 7, I was running out of steam and I was running out of ideas for things to do. And so I pulled out the list of ideas that we'd had for the week, all the things that we could do. That 7th day, it was very rainy, very cold. I had one of those days you feel like the walls are kind of closing in. So I look in the list, and the only thing that we hadn't done was go to the movies. Perfect, I think. So the movie that's playing nearby is Sing 2. And as it turned out, Vivian had seen Sing with her mom and loved it. So I thought, this is going to be great. Actually, during the week, Vivian and I had seen the previews of Sing 2, and she'd been a little hot and cold on it. She'd said, yeah, I do want to go. I don't want to go. I don't know if I want to go. Kind of back and forth like that. But on this day, on day 7, she said, yes, I want to go. Let's go. Great, I think, an outing. So at the appointed time, I gathered all her stuff, bundled her all up. Out we went in the pouring rain to the movie theater, got there a little bit early, bought our tickets, got our popcorn. I held Vivi up so she could pick out the exact candy that she wanted. We had everything, our drinks, etc. Off we go to the theater to see the movie that was showing our film. I open up the door and I look inside and there's not a soul there. And I go, Vivi, this is great. We have the theater all to ourselves. We can take our masks off. And I start to walk inside. But Vivi doesn't follow. She stands outside the door of the theater and doesn't come in. I go, come on in. She goes, I don't want to come in. I'm afraid. I said, oh, well, what are you afraid of? And there's a big poster by the entrance to the movie, a picture of the, promoting, billboard picture of Sing 2. And there's a character in there that she finds scary looking. And I said, Vivian, this is not a scary movie, sweetheart. You remember how much you liked Sing 1? You're going to really like this one. And you know what? If you get scared at any time, Vivian, we can just come out in the lobby and let that scene pass. I do that all the time, if it's violent or whatever. And then I said, and even beyond that, Vivian, if we don't like the movie, we can just leave, but let's just give it a try. Didn't budge. I don't want to go in. I don't want to see the movie. At this point, I had the door open so she could see me, and I went in, trying every trick in the book, and I put our coats out. I arranged the refreshments so it looked kind of nice and comfy and cozy there. Look, we're going to sit in this really cushy place. We have a theater. We're in the middle. Come on in, Vivian. No, I'm afraid. And then she began to cry. I had tried everything I could possibly think of to get her in that theater, and it was now clear that was not going to happen. And I began to get exasperated. I was tired. I wanted this to work. I was getting a little bit worked up. By the grace of God, I had this thought, wait a minute. What's really important here? This child is genuinely frightened. I don't know why. I may not be able to see that, but she needs me to understand. She needs me in this moment to see the world through her eyes. So I walked back up to our coats. I gathered them up. I gathered the drinks. I gathered the refreshments and went down, and I said to her, you know what, Vivi? Let's just go home. We can take our treats with us, and we can watch a movie there. Be thinking about what you'd like to watch. And I have to tell you, in a matter of seconds, she was a completely different person. She went from tears to relief to joy in a matter of moments. And out we went. And a half hour later, we were snuggled under our blankets at home, watching Encanto for her third or fourth time, my second. And thankfully, my son has a huge TV screen in his home, which made it almost like being at the movies. And we felt so close to one another. And Vivian got very, very inspired, which led to this very brief little expression. And you know what? I just have to say, that afternoon felt like a miracle to me. It felt like a miracle. It felt like a lesson for me in unconditional love, that ability to just shift gears, see the world through somebody else's eyes, be there for them. This Valentine's Day and far beyond, I invite you to give the gift of unconditional yourself, remember Evie, and to others. Love them for who they are. Let them be who they are, warts and all. Appreciate them, look for the good. And while you're at it, do the same for yourself. You, more than anyone, deserve your love. And this gift of accepting yourself, even with your shortcomings, even when you mess up, and loving others that same way, isn't that really what true love is all about? Happy Valentine's Day to each and every one of you. Let's turn now to our meditation. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat, close your eyes, take a nice big deep breath in, release and let it go. Coming to this present moment, coming to this peaceful moment. Breathe into this grace of now. And Appreciating for a moment your dear, sweet self on your journey through life. I invite you to think back over your ups and downs, your challenges, your triumphs, how you've always found your way, how you've learned and grown, how you've come to know a little more clearly who you truly are. In this moment, send yourself some love. Well done. Well done, spiritual traveler. Breathe into that. You're okay. You are more than okay. You are strong and courageous. You are brave and lovable. I invite you to bring into your mind's eye those who are dearest to you. Appreciate whatever struggles they may be going through. Leave yourself behind for just a second to imagine life in their shoes. How can you be there for them? How can you truly see them? How might you even develop chronic adoration for them? I invite you to take a moment to just commune in spirit with those you love. Feel your heart expand and send them your love for a few moments in the silence. On this Valentine's Sunday, with hearts so wide open, we joyfully take up the charge to love a little deeper, a little more fully, a little bit better. That is our call, and we say yes to it with a willing heart. For these many blessings, for the loved ones in our lives, for the joy of love itself, we say thank you, God, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit.